day. This is PSY 384, study session 7. Sampling and sampling techniques. Introduction. Research in the behavioral sciences involves the process of sampling participants from a population of interest. Sampling is a systematic process employed by the researcher for the purpose of selecting participants for the study. Because it is not feasible to study all the members of a population of interest in a study, researchers use only a proportion which is representative of the population. For the sample to be truly representative, it must share all characteristics in common, that is, matching with the population. For instance, a representative sample of a population of adolescents must be matched in terms of age, education, sex, etc. A sample is representative of the population to the extent that it exhibits the same distribution of characteristics as the population. Objective. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain the types of sampling techniques in use in research. Pretest. Mention the types of sampling techniques and 2 methods under each technique. Content. Population. In a study, the population is composed of all individuals of interest to the researcher. One population of interest in a large public opinion poll, for example, might include all eligible voters in Nigeria. By implication, the population of interest excludes such groups as people under 18 years, visitors to the country, convicted felon, and every other person not eligible to vote. Also, the entire students of University of Ibadan could constitute the population in a survey. Sampling frame. The sampling frame is the actual population of individuals from which a random sample will be drawn. In a survey to evaluate the attitudes of students toward library services in the University of Ibadan, the sampling frame might be a list obtained from the office of the registrar of all currently registered students. This list obtained from the registrar's office thus forms the sampling frame for the study. Sampling techniques. There are 2 basic techniques for sampling individuals from a population. These are probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling. In probability sampling, each member of the population has an equal chance of being included in the sample. This type of sampling technique is important because it allows researchers to estimate how likely it is that their sample findings differ from the findings they will have obtained by studying the whole population. For example, suppose a researcher wants to study use of library facilities among students of the University of Ibadan. The researcher is more likely to get a truly representative sample of students if she uses the list of registered students from the registrar's office than if she included in the sample the first 30 students to arrive at the library as it is being opened. Types of probabilistic sampling. Simple random sampling. A basic characteristic of this sampling technique is that it ensures that every member of a particular population of interest has an equal chance, that is, probability of being selected in the sample. For instance, if the population of interest has 100 members, each one has 1 chance out of 100 of being selected. Balloting and random tables are frequently used to select members under simple random sampling. Stratified sampling. With this method, participants are selected on the basis of how they are distributed in the population by subgroups or strata. The strata chosen should bear direct relevance to the problem of study. For instance, a survey on sexual attitudes might stratify the population of interest on the basis of relevant demographic variables such as age, sex, education, etc. There are two methods of selecting participants using stratified sampling. The first method in selecting participants by proportion or proportional representation. That is, participants are selected according to their proportion in the population. Suppose we have a population divided into three strata of 40%, 40% and 20%. A stratified sample of 200 drawn from this population would give 80 in the first two strata and 40 in the third stratum. The other method of selecting participants using this technique is by drawing equal size samples from each stratum. Systematic sampling. In this procedure, a list of all members of the population is created, then only individuals who fall under a predetermined nth position will be selected. For example, suppose a sample size of 5 is chosen with a sample frame of 40. In this case, the nth position is 8, for example 40/5. Thus, only those who fall in the 8th position will be included in the sample for the study. That gives us person 16th, 24th, and so on. Cluster sampling. Sometimes, because it could be impossible to get a comprehensive list of a population of interest, cluster sampling is used. With cluster sampling, the researcher first identifies a group of people who satisfy the characteristics of the study population. This is known as a cluster. The researcher then takes a random sampling of the clusters and uses all members of the sampled clusters as research participants. Probabilistic sampling is used infrequently in behavioral science research, partly because it is expensive and also because of the limitations it places on experimental manipulation and the types of measures that can be used. Non-probabilistic sampling. Generally, non-probabilistic sampling refers to the sampling techniques in which the researcher finds it convenient to use participants who are available and willing to collect data for the study. Types of non-probabilistic sampling. Accidental sampling. This involves selecting respondents primarily on the basis of their availability and willingness to participate in the study. A researcher who is interested in studying students' attitude about the recent hike in school fees by the authority of the University of Ibadan will survey as many students that are willing and available to participate in the study. Convenience sampling. In this case, the participants are made up of individuals whom the researcher finds it convenient to collect data from. Suppose a researcher wants to study aggression. The researcher could set a cut-off point for aggression and administer the questionnaires on students. Thereafter, only students who score up to and above the cut-off will form the sample for the study on aggression. Convenience sampling is expensive and easy for data collection. The disadvantage of this technique, however, is that the larger the participant, the less likely the result of the research will apply to the target population. Purposive sampling. Here, the researcher selects the study participants on the basis of their special characteristics such as expertise or experience that are related to the purpose of the study. A researcher who is interested in studying the effectiveness of different teaching aids will survey teachers and others in the teaching profession. Purposive sampling is often used in case study research. Snowballing sampling. With this type of sampling technique, those who are initially selected for a sample on the basis of convenience or purposive sampling nominate others whom they think might be willing to participate in the study. The nominees who agree to participate are then asked to nominate other potential participants, and the sample size keeps growing. The advantage of this technique is that it is useful in constructing samples of population who are difficult to reach, such as illegal drug users, members of a secret cult, etc. Summary. In this lecture, we have examined the types of sampling techniques used in research. We have come to the end of study session 7. Thanks for listening.